Welcome to week 4 of Contemporary World Issues. This week we are going to talk about the most important part of being in the EU, the single market. So, the single market is a lesson on economics. It's pretty simple economics, but it requires some focus and thought. So, let's see what the single market is. Keep in mind, like previous lessons, as you go through this video, you will be able to answer many of the questions on the worksheet provided, which you should have pulled up in another tab. So what is the single market? It's the very most important part of the EU. It provides the most benefits, and it's the biggest reason why countries join the EU. It created millions of jobs and generated 800 millions of euros in extra wealth across Europe. That means people in these EU countries, just by being in the EU, make more money now than they did before because of the single market economy. And yes, it turned the EU into the second most powerful economy in the world, only after the United States. Here you have the symbol of the euro. So, our dollar sign has the S with the line through it. Theirs has the C symbol with lines through it. Kind of looks like an E for euro. So what is it? So all countries within the EU are not separate markets. They are not separate economies. They are one big economy. That's why it's called the single market. One market, one economy. So this means that all countries within the EU can now provide services to any other EU country. This means that a cell phone service in Bulgaria can open up shop in Ireland now. Or a cheese company in France can open up shop in Italy now. A German car company can open up shop in Spain. So all these countries are just one big economy now, just like in the United States. For example, in Washington Courthouse, Wits can now open up shop in California. I mean, they've always been able to do that, but it's kind of the same idea. So they're like the United States, they're one big economy. This means that there's going to be more competition. You guys probably haven't had very many economic lessons in your life as far as social studies goes. So this might be a little difficult to understand, but more competition means lower prices. So if Wits is the only company providing or business providing ice cream in Washington Courthouse, their prices might be pretty high and their quality might be pretty low because they know that is the only place to get ice cream. But they're competing with several other places that's giving ice cream in Washington Courthouse. So their prices stay relatively okay and the quality stays high too to compete because they don't want to go out of business. So because a German power plant now has to compete with a French power plant for everybody's electric in the EU, prices go down because they're competing now. Cell phone service will go down because the German cell phone service is now competing with the Danish and the Swedish and the Irish and the French cell phone service. Airline prices in Europe are astronomically, I guess that wouldn't be the right word, astoundingly lower in Europe than they are in the United States. Because if I want to fly from Dublin, Ireland to Athens, Greece, for example, I get to choose from almost any airline I want, basically, across Europe from several different countries. And so, because they're competing, their prices go down. And the quality might go up even. Here in the United States, if I want to fly from Columbus to Salt Lake City, I only get to choose from US-based airlines. And they know this. There's like 4 ones I can choose from. And so they're all in agreement. Let's keep the ticket at $400. Don't go any lower than this. And let's just treat the customer like garbage because we know they don't have a choice on who to fly with. So you will see a big difference in quality and price in the EU thanks to the single market. and the competition that companies have to face now. So it's in many ways it's good for the EU citizens because of that. So how does the single market bring prices down? Well, I kind of just explained it. People have more choices now on where to spend money. So businesses compete for customers by lowering prices. So an Irish company now has to compete with several other EU countries providing the same service, thanks to the single market. It equals better products, better quality, and cheaper prices. So this is a very simple economics lesson. It boosts the EU economy as well. So focus on this for a moment. It's kind of hard to do this when you're not in person. Let's say all the things that you have to afford, and I know you guys are probably, I know this is a freshman class, so probably don't have much experience with money, but let's say that you have a job and everything's really expensive. So lower prices in the EU, anyway, you won't be able to do a lot with if everything's so expensive. So in the EU, the prices of things are lower, which means you don't have to spend so much money you work for on necessities. So you have a lot of money to spend on luxuries or things you want to spend money on. It's called a disposable income. Money you can just throw away. Money you can waste on things that aren't really necessary. It's called a disposable income. It's a really negative word, disposable, but in this instance, it's very positive. I would love to have a bigger disposable income. I would go on vacations. I would buy lots of junk food. I would buy a lot of stuff for my house that I don't really need. So disposable income is very good. Anyway, so when you join the single market, prices go lower, which means you have more money to spend. So you're going to spend it on things you don't really need, like nice restaurants, nice cars, a big vacation, toys for the kids. And because you're spending this disposable income on stuff, it's going to boost business. It's going to put more money in other people's pockets. And when you're spending money on these things over here, their business expands. So they're going to hire more people, which means people are going to have more money, and the whole cycle repeats itself. So if the necessities that you need are low priced, you're going to have more money to spend on things like these, which means people's businesses are going to grow, which means they're going to have more jobs. They're going to have to hire more people, which means everyone's getting more money, and the cycle repeats itself. So the single market has been extremely beneficial to the EU. I think a while ago there, the EU and the US were neck and neck in the economy. So it also improved safety. So if we're all going to be trading with each other in Europe, I know we're not European, but if we were all European, we're all going to be trading with each other, safety is going to be an issue. The safety standards on how they make cheese in Bulgaria, for example, a very poor, developing, I guess you can call it a developing country, is not going to be the same as the way they make cheese in France, a highly developed country. But if we're going to be trading with each other in the single market, if we're going to be selling our cheese in France from Bulgaria, France is going to be a little concerned. So the EU now sets thousands and thousands and thousands of standards for almost everything that is sold. So many things have standards. Toasters, towels, windows, everything you can think of, the EU regulates. So if I want to sell cheese in France now from Bulgaria, which I can do now thanks to the single market, I have to make sure that I meet all of the EU safety standards on how I'm making the cheese. The milk has to be clean of steroids and hormones. The space where the cheese is made has to be clean to make sure that, you know, a Bulgarian cheese factory is not going to poison a bunch of people in Ireland, for example. So safety went up and the standards of everything went up. So that's a good thing about the single market as well. So there's more benefits here. It says now in times of economic recession and depression, which is where, people get laid off because no one's spending money, no jobs, everyone's getting poorer, which is a natural cycle of economics. It's going to happen. But because when that happens, excuse me, I got hiccups. When that happens, the single market can now come together to fix that. Instead of a bunch of countries in Europe just desperately trying to figure out what to do, ununified. Also, there's a maximum pricing standard that the EU enforces. For example, a gallon of milk cannot cost more than €7 anywhere in the EU. So they put price caps on things. So there's two things, and then we'll wrap it up here. Negative aspects of the single market. So it only really benefits big business. It says small businesses are not interested or able to sell products and services across the EU. Oftentimes, small businesses get overtaken by international big businesses thanks to the single market. So, for example, let's go back to Wits. Let's put Wits in Ireland. Wits now has the possibility of selling its ice cream in Italy. But does Wits want to? Wits probably doesn't want to, or not yet anyway. Wits is a small business. It's not going to want to go all the way across the United States for no reason, just to sell things that it's selling here. Walmart, though, would like to sell in international countries. So going back to this, small businesses in Ireland do not care to go all the way to Poland to sell their stuff. It only benefits big business. They can, but it's very unusual for that to happen. And it causes cheap labor. So poorer EU nations move to richer EU nations, and they're willing to work for a lot less than the wealthier native citizens. It says the native citizens will often lose their jobs to poorer EU immigrants. So if I'm Bulgarian and they pay me €10 an hour for my labor, but Denmark is paying €22 an hour, thanks to the Schengen Agreement, I can go to Denmark. I could walk there if I wanted to, because we're all in the EU. And now I'm going to get a minimum wage job there for €22 an hour. I don't exactly know what the minimum wage in Denmark is, but it's probably around that. And I'm going to take some Danish guy's job because he wants to work for, 30 to 40 euros an hour. I'm already poor. I'm just going to walk to Denmark, which is totally legal, and take his job and work for a lot less. That's the single market negative aspect as well. If we're all in the same economy, we all get to work anywhere we want as well. So that is the two bad things about the single market. So let me demonstrate how the single market works using this video. It is let me show you this video here. Here we go. Here's an example of the single market, how it works.
So here's an example how the EU single market works. So for each one of these rounds, it's a different time, okay? So let's just do this one at a time. So let's look at round one. This is before the EU single market. We're buying electricity. Each one of these numbers represents a country, just a random country in Europe. So each country sells electricity at a different price. Country number one, $90 a month, or whatever currency they're using before the EU. Country two, 50. Country three, 300. So this is an expensive one to live in. Country four, 80. So if you look at these four countries, which one is the cheapest? Well, it's country two. This is the one you're going to want to live in. So now the EU is created. Here we are. And the single market is also created. This means that now, if you are in the EU and a part of the single market, which every EU country is, you can buy from other countries now. So now that we're in round two, and all of these countries can buy from each other now, with one exception. Country 3 is not an EU member. So if you live in country 1, you can now choose which country you're going to buy your products from. Like country 2. No one in their right mind in country 1 will buy from country 1. They're going to buy from country 2 because it's a lot cheaper. Country 3, the people that live in country 3, because they are not in the EU, still have to pay $300 a month. 1, 2, and 4, they're in the EU, they get to buy from country 2. Country 3, who is not in the EU, is stuck paying their own people $300 a month. Let's look at the final round. So after a while, after a few months, this routine goes on. Look what happens. Because of the single market, all the countries now have the lowest possible price that they're willing to charge people for, except country 3, who is still price gouging because they know that their people still have to buy from them. Their people cannot buy from EU countries because they're not in the EU. They don't get to take advantage of the single market benefits. These 3 electric companies, they have to compete with the cheapest EU country. They know that their people can choose which country to buy from. So the EU brought the cost of living down dramatically. This is called the single market economy, and it is the most beneficial and the most important part of being in the EU. It saves people lots of money. It keeps businesses competitive. I'll prove it to you in this example of airfare right now.
So here is an example of the single market live right now. So here's a flight from Columbus to Salt Lake City, Utah. So if we leave July 2nd, come home July 9th in 1 week, we're going to pay about $500 after taxes and luggage. So very expensive. And let's look at the airlines here. All of these airlines are from the United States. United, American Airlines, Delta, Alaskan Airlines. That's it. We only have like 4 or 5 to choose from, and they're all based in the United States, and they all agree we're not going under this price. So they're all competing with each other, but they are still in agreement that they're going to price gouge us. So let's go to the EU now. Let's fly from Paris to Dublin on the same dates. $37, $120, $169. So you can see it is dramatically different in the EU. This is astounding compared to the last price we saw. And let's see, because of the single market, all these countries can sell in each other's country now. So like in the United States, you only had US-based airlines to choose from. But in this EU country, this is an Irish company, French, Irish, Dutch from the Netherlands. We can go on and on. It's not loading though. So that's an example of how the single market works.